talk of an £80 million bid that could come in from Saudi Arabia for Casemiro. There's also talk of 120 plus million potential bid for Bruno Fernandes, but Bayern Munich and Barca are looking at him as well. But if Man United end up getting 50 plus million, maybe even making a profit on Casemiro, I mean, that'll be a turn up for the books, wouldn't it?
I don't see it, man. I honestly don't see it, Terry. Listen, I think people are just putting things out there at the minute because Casemiro, it's not like Casemiro's been playing well for you guys and they're trying to take him out. You know, he's been on a downward spiral. You know, he's not as big as, you know, like a Salah going to the Saudi league at the minute. I don't think you're going to see more than 40 million for him, in my opinion. I don't know where this 80 millions come from, in all honesty.
He does have 3 years left on his contract, though, and if they want them, which they do, they're going to have to pay the money, and they have silly money. So 80 million to them is probably about, you know, they have billions and billions and billions of unlimited money. They don't care. And if Man United get to do that, it's absolutely a masterstroke because, you know, on merit, nobody should pay 10 million for him because he's absolutely washed.
That's a narrative that doesn't actually really land, because if they bought Casemiro for 80 million, he'd be their that league's second most expensive transfer of all time. And you consider all the players they bought in the past. I don't think big money ends up happening in the transfers, but it's not in the fee. It's more so in the players' wages that they get. They'll pay the players loads of money, but the clubs won't really get that. I mean, you look back at us last year. We had to fight for a month to get 40 for Fabinho. I'd say he's leaving the Premier League in a better state than what Casemiro was leaving the Premier League in. And
he was younger. And he was younger as well, Tom, when he left.
How long did Fabinho have left on his contract?
2 years, I think.
It was 2 years, I think.
By the way, I don't think we'll get 80. I don't believe we'll get 80. But you said something a minute ago, Don. Like, we'd be lucky if we get 40. If we get 40, I'll celebrate. With the level, because if a European team wants him, I think we'd be lucky after last season and him being 32 and the wages that he's on, we'd probably be lucky to get more than £10 million. So if we were able to sell him to, and this is the one thing though about Casemiro, he does have more star quality than Fabinho because he played for Real Madrid and he's part of that group that won all those Champions Leagues. His name, don't let he's this last 12 months at Man United fool people. This guy has got star appeal, and that's something the Saudi League wants. They want more players like your Casemiros, etc., who have sort of been there, done it, worn the t-shirt, and can bring like extra crowds in. Fabinho is a very good player, but he ain't bringing crowds in like a Casemiro in terms of he doesn't.
You think Casemiro's bringing in crowds like that, Terry?
He's a star name. I mean, it's one of the reasons that they want him. I'm not saying he's not going to bring in crowds like Messi or Ronaldo, but he's a Real Madrid legend, and Real Madrid legends. They just hit different, and he's a legend of his country as well. So for me, I don't think we'll get 80 odd million. But when I've seen people all year say, "You guys not gonna be able to sell him, no one's going to buy him," I'm like, you guys are forgetting about the MLS and the Saudi League when it comes to these Real Madrid players. They are desperate for him because it raises their profile. So I think we'll be able to get anywhere between sort of 30 and 50 million pounds for him. And that is, by the way, to the MLS as well. That's pocket change. These leagues are so rich, it's unbelievable, but they just can't buy the stars when they're in their pomp, essentially. So yeah, for me, I'm really, listen, we can get that kind of money in for him. That helps our endeavors massively. Bruno Fernandes, on the other hand, what do you reckon, Kate? If that Man United get offered 120 million pound, as the report today suggests, for Bruno, do you think Man United should sell him?
I don't know. I mean, I can't stand him as a rival. I think he's a horrible little player. But if he was on my team, I'd probably love him. Do you know what I mean? But he seems to get a lot of abuse from his own fans, which is mad because his stats are actually really good. But do you know what? If Man United want to sort of rebuild this team, that they're close to FFP, so they've got to sell some of these big names. And I think, you know, if you're going to get offered that sort of money, for me, I'd have him out the door and get in an Elise and, you know, somebody else and start again. I think Bruno's attitude is definitely a little bit suspect. And as I say, if you're going to start right from scratch and rebuild the whole team, then for me, some of these big players with big egos have got to go, and then let the new manager come in and bring in his own new players of who he wants for his system.
I think Bruno is one of the most disrespected players in the league. When I hear United fans talk shit about him, I really am perplexed, because he's been one of the most consistent players they've had in their banter era of late. Let's be real, like, you know. He's been one of the most consistent. He comes up, he delivers, he scores big goals. Yeah, sometimes he can go miss, but like in that squad of players you've had over the last few years, he's by far and away not the worst problem. He should be part of a new era, with the Ineos and stuff. So I think he shouldn't even dream of selling number 120 million, because United's history with expenditure in the transfer market over the last while means, what are they going to actually do with that 120 million if they get it? Who could they get? I don't know. I think you got to be careful what you wish for if you're a United fan and you want him gone for that price.
I get what you're saying, but when they've got footballing people now at the top and you've got a new manager coming in, if 120 million comes in for a 29-year-old who's got 2 years left on his deal, doesn't matter how great his output is, because we know he's an output machine. That sort of money, I don't think you can say no to. And if Elise is linked with Man United, and you can bring him in and someone else, I think long term, obviously that betters Man United. Plus, does Bruno Fernandes? I mean, are you going to get a more attractive offer for Bruno Fernandes in the future? Probably not. If these links are true, I think you got to cash in. Doesn't matter how great he is and has been. That sort of money you can't say no to.
United aren't in a position of a win now, so therefore keeping a player who is in his prime doesn't necessarily make much sense with the way that squad is probably going to be built over the next 3 years. Whereas the money that they could get offered for him, that could go about fixing a lot of the holes that United have. Because if we're being real, there was a lot of holes in this United squad that need filling. And, just like left back, for example, centre back, they've got rid of Varane this year. I don't even know who they've got left at centre back. So they probably need one or two there. Midfield, especially if Casemiro goes, they're going to need another one there, maybe two, because we don't know what's happened with Eriksen. There's so many holes that United needs to fill, and they aren't going to fill them with win-now players. They're going to be filling them with probably younger prospects or some experienced heads to help out the younger prospects already. United aren't going to be spending the summer building a team to challenge and win the Premier League. United aren't going to be spending the next summer building a team to challenge and win the Premier League. That aspiration has to be 4 or 5 years down the line. Bruno Fernandes does not fit that timeline. His biggest use for Manchester United now would be as a cash cow who they can flog to Saudi Arabia and use the funds to build the next era of Manchester United. Because if you can sell Fernandes and bring in a new attacking midfielder, Michael Elise, and a top DM to go alongside Kobbie Mainoo, all of a sudden you've got a large core of your team built for one player, which makes sense.
I don't think the player will go to Saudi. That's the problem with this story. I think if we get offered it, I think what you guys have said is logical. You have to think about the timeline we're on. How many years has he got left? You have to think about when to sell players. And I know that certain fans will say, well, you should be thinking about winning and always thinking about winning. But football isn't just about the here and now. You have to play chess sometimes and know when to move people on. Sir Alex Ferguson very famously got rid of Paul Ince, Kanchelskis, and Mark Hughes to allow space in the squad for the class of 92, which we won the league the following year, to be fair. We'd already been champions, but made us better in the future. We were struggling for 2 or 3 years with Chelsea's back-to-back titles, and Arsenal had been invincible. We went out early in the Champions League. And he wanted to sort of bring through Rooney and Ronaldo. There was actually a problem in the dressing room with Ruud van Nistelrooy, who was still arguably the best striker in the world at that point, and Ronaldo. But the manager knew, I've got to cash in now on Van Nistelrooy. So it's knowing, Man United have got a history of sometimes getting rid of their best player at the right time. I would say in the last decade, we've left it too long before we got rid of people. The fact that Pogba was looking for a new club for 3.5 years before he left, and we didn't cash in on him in that time frame is ridiculous. Martial probably should have been sold 4 or 5 years ago for money. So that element, I agree with. If Saudi come in with this bid and the player's willing to go, I think it's something we can't afford to just turn our nose up at. But it's more likely that a Bayern Munich or a Barcelona who are talking to his agents are going to come in and turn his head. And then you're looking at a lot less money. And if they're only offering us 50, 60, even 70, 80 million, I then do look at it and think, I still think we need him in this team at the early stages of this rebuild. The third factor, which some Man United fans don't want to consider, is the player has publicly stated this, that he needs to understand what the club's direction is. He may look at it as a 29-year-old. I want to say 29. He might be a little bit older than that. He's 29. He's going to turn 30 in September. He may look at it and go, if this project is to not be ready to challenge for a Premier League in 2 to 3 years because of the age profile of player, the kind of manager we're going for. I also don't begrudge him his age saying, I want to go to Bayern Munich because I want to win I want to be able to win something now. So I'm sort of very open-minded about this. I agree with Paddy, probably the most disrespected player in the Premier League, bar none, in my opinion. I get that he rubs people up the wrong way, but there's a lot that gets said about him, which when you read things about Man United as a Man United fan, his attitude is nearly always, it is right, even though his antics sometimes look wrong. We would all turn around and go, Cristiano Ronaldo is a born winner, right? We'd all turn around and say Cristiano Ronaldo is everything for a team. But he has wins and cried and moaned his entire career. What I love about Bruno as well is the sort of narratives that he shot down, because no one can turn around anymore and say, well, what's he won? He can't speak. He's won 2 trophies at Man United. He won some at Sporting Lisbon. He doesn't have a league title or a Champions League, but he still won major trophies. You look at this run, this FA Cup run this season just gone. He was actually very good against Liverpool, but the Liverpool game was the only match in the entire run from third round through to winning the final where he didn't score or create the decisive goals. So that, for me, shows the quality of a player he is. And anyone who, if we do get rid of him, if he does go to a Bayern Munich or a team like that, they're absolutely going to thrive with someone like him. As long as you play him in the best position, which is the attacking midfield role just off the striker. Because for about 2 years at Man United, we stupidly have been moving him around the pitch to cater for other holes, and we've sacrificed what he's very good at. When he came back into his natural position in about the beginning of March, between then and the end of the season, his goal and assist return was absolutely phenomenal again. So he's a machine when it comes to that, there's no doubt. But I am in two minds. I don't want him to go, but I understand we're playing chess here, and it might be the right decision for the club in the medium to long term.
Yeah, I think